Okay. Now, I literally am just back from a aerial survey of large portions of the county. In this process, what I saw was, in some areas, limited damage, but in other areas, total devastation. As we moved out the 28 corridor, what I saw was bridges completely washed out, roadways completely washed out, an enormous amount of infrastructure work that's going to be required as we move forward. We also wanted to make sure we got to a YMCA camp up in Frost Valley to make sure that everyone was going to be safe there. We're now moving young children out of there who were actually landlocked there for a period of time because the roadways, both in and out, were inaccessible. The good news is, again, we are making progress there. Everybody's getting out and everybody is safe. To date, the most important part, again, is that we have no reports of fatalities, and we ask that everyone continue to use their best caution as they move around and that they try to stay safe. We understand that there is no travel ban now because we want to make sure that people can get out if they need either dry ice or if they need the capacity to be able to, again, things like dry ice are for so much more than just food. Dry ice can sometimes be used, obviously, to keep things like insulin cold that is absolutely essential for someone in need in that situation. As we worked our way around, we also saw some serious flooding in the Wawarsing and Rondout area, agriculture that's been significantly negatively impacted. That's an area, obviously, that is secondary to human life and safety, which is our primary concern. Right now, we just want to make sure everybody's able to stay safe. The next steps will be identifying our infrastructure needs, how we can make sure that people are able to move safely around the county, and then lastly, again, to be able to address things like our economic impacts and how we're going to move forward in the financial costs associated with rebuilding. But let there be no mistake, the people of Ulster County are incredibly resilient and we will rebuild. Ulster County will be what it will always be, the best place anywhere to live. Now, it is a beautiful day out. We had the capacity to get very good views of things, but in the process, what I will tell you else I saw, flying over New Paltz, as someone who is from New Paltz, I saw flooding that I haven't seen in my entire life. The gravity and the severity of it is unbelievable when seen from above. We have to make sure that we provide as much assistance as quickly as possible. We're going to be working with our partners at the federal and state level, but undoubtedly agriculture has been negatively impacted there. SUNY New Paltz has now made a decision they are not opening until the 6th of September. That is unprecedented. We're having the same time frame for SUNY Ulster as well. Am I correct? Yes. So the most important part, again, is that people are safe and that they stay safe. We're going to commit whatever resources are available to make sure that the people of Ulster County first stay safe, and then we're able to slowly but surely return to normal. So that's the exciting part of that overhead view. It really is going to allow us to be able to better allocate our resources, and that's really an important part of where we are going forward. Central Hudson, you're on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Hello.
Hello, can you give everybody an update really of where we're at this point?
Certainly. Again, my name is John Masurgeon with Central Hudson. At this point in Ulster County, about 35,000 outages remain. We have been able to energize transmission lines, substations, and some distribution circuits throughout the Ulster County area, and we have more than half of our field resources working in Ulster County. We have just issued what we call a global restoration, or a time when we think or we project that power will be restored to the majority, or about 90% of our customers, and that is Sunday, September 4th at 11 o'clock. Now that means that we'll be working throughout the week and weekend, and we should see some progress along the way. But by that time on Sunday, we're projecting about 90% of our customers in that area in Ulster County, and actually throughout our entire service area, will have their power restored. Now, we also recognize that that 10% remaining may not have power for several days more or perhaps longer in certain cases. You heard the county executive describe some of the conditions that you saw, and we recognize that there are some places where the roads are washed out, the poles are gone, the places that place the poles are gone, and we're going to have to devise new places to run the lines to serve some of the homes and businesses, especially in those remote areas. And it's our intention to reach out to those individuals to help to work with them and let them know that what we're looking at in terms of getting power back onto their individual homes or places. So we continue to work to restore power. We were able to restore service to about 20,000 Ulster County residents overnight yesterday, and I will say that from this point onward, the progress will be a bit slower because of what we're contending with. The distribution circuits that we're working on now are heavily damaged. We're looking to replace about 100 poles. There's about 600 sections of wire that we have to replace as well. The section being the distance between two poles, and the conditions are such that it's slow going. But we're as we start to clean up in other areas around, such as Dutchess and Orange counties, we'll begin to move crews into Ulster and Greene as well to address the outages and the damage in this location.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
You know, accompanying me today was the Sheriff of Ulster County, Paul Van Blarcum, and Art Snyder, our emergency management personnel. Art is doing a tremendous job coordinating the efforts of all the resources in Ulster County to make sure that we're able to get them out. And we ask for people's patience in this process. As we take on what, like I said earlier, is the largest natural disaster in Ulster County's history, we're going to ask for patience, but we're going to put every single bit of resources. In fact, the only time we have stepped away from any of the recovery efforts at this point is today to go to the funeral of Private First Class Cordo, right here in Kingston. I will say this. It puts everything in perspective when you realize that we have someone who was killed in Afghanistan and you're at their funeral and that they've given their life in service of our country. What I will tell you is our thoughts and prayers go out to their family as well. Now, any questions, anybody?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Paul, sir? Okay.
Of course, Paul.
Now, as far as responding to the countywide crisis, how did notification go out to residents? You know, how did you communicate with everyone when they had no power, no internet, no roads were out?
I think you're.
And in turn, how did they communicate that they were in need? I saw a few rescues myself the other day. So
there have been countless rescues, and that's really one of the enormous portions of taking on a tragedy or really a catastrophe like this, and that is identifying the condition that everybody is in, and that's not something you can do instantaneously. Obviously, when phone lines are down, cell service was spotty at best in many areas during this process. But again, our sheriff's office, local PDs, local fire departments have been instrumental in this process. You can never say thank you enough to our local fire departments, who really have played a critical role in this from a first responders perspective. Again, those are the primary sources that you're able to use at that point to be able to identify where the real problem areas can be. Plus, you have historical knowledge of where major flooding takes place. The problem is when you have a storm like this, which is of historical proportions, you have flooding where you never had flooding before.
And from Central Hudson's perspective, we communicated through, of course, the news media, local radio stations, social media, and the internet. We had personnel stationed at each of the emergency management offices, the county emergency management offices, and we hold conference calls with municipal officials and elected officials on a daily basis, and we're in touch with individual municipalities and elected officials and highway departments, emergency responders on a continual basis, throughout throughout this.
And Paul, all those sources are really sources that the county utilizes as well. Paula, hold on one second. JJ?
Yeah, Paul, I just wanted to elaborate on that point. Like the county executive just said, we, as well as Central Hudson, we've been taking advantage of all those sources, social media, working with the news media, really pushing on the radio. Before the storm, the county executive advised people to have a radio with batteries because that would probably be one of the primary methods of communication for the county. For those people that do have websites or access, we've been updating our county website as well as the emergency management webpage. Information has been going out through the 911 system to local fire departments, emergency services. They've been relaying information that they needed back to the 911 system through that, whether it's over their radio communication systems or over hard lines that exist. So really this process has tested the communication system of the county, but it's also shown that it works.
Yeah, excellent. So will you be doing a post-mortem on this to see if there were any failures or any kind of,
Paula?
just on the communication level, or do you feel that it's really been a success as far as, I know that we were kind of out of it, but we were safe, and so, we did have a radio that we were able to hear some things. So,
Paula, just so you know, what we're talking about here is trying to communicate with 183,000 people in a place that's the size of Rhode Island, where there is limited cell service in the western part of our county, as well as limited radio service. So obviously there are significant challenges in those processes, but we've been very pleased with the level of communication, and all because really it's been this network of all these sources to be able to provide information to the general public, and again, to be able to get input from the general public as well. And that's something that we continue to move forward on. That said, we are 2 days into the largest natural disaster in the history of Ulster County. I'm incredibly proud of the efforts being put forth by everyone involved in trying to bring assistance to people. And really where we're at this point is it will be time down the road before we're able to make evaluations of exactly areas that can be either improved upon or changed.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with you. And now the next step after you assess that people are safe and so on, everybody's kind of structural damage. I know that Coldbrook Bridge, I believe it was Coldbrook Bridge, which was shut down up here on 28, washed out.
Paul,
hit the 5 arches. Structural damage throughout the county. Do you know a rough idea of what bridges are affected, or?
If Art Snyder, you here?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to have Art talk about some of the public infrastructure, but just so you know, Paul, about that particular bridge, the Coldbrook Bridge, we flew over that and we saw where it was gone. Now, to take you back a day and a half, I was on the 5 Arches Bridge, literally just moments after the hurricane was passing through, to be able to see if we could literally find that bridge that you're talking about. To be quite frank with you, it was not visible from that point. 5 Arches Bridge was still in good shape at that point. We've flown over everything in that area, but the Coldbrook Bridge that you're talking about, that doesn't exist right now, is also completely unfindable from the air.
I mean, it looks like it was removed. We went and looked at it, and it looked like it was absolutely removed. It wasn't ripped away; it just looked removed.
The contractor on that one was Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It's been removed.
Hey,
crazy.
Art, can you go?
Any idea rough financial impact to the county, or?
There's no way to wrap a complete figure on that at this point.
Yeah.
Simply, it's too early in the process. We expect to have not only our own people out there doing evaluations of the infrastructure and the other costs associated with this, as well as our economic development people working with local businesses. And again, when we talk about agriculture, whether we talk about tourism, whether we talk about our manufacturing or really Main Street businesses as well, identifying the impact of this from that perspective. So there's going to be multiple factors that come together to identify really what the full cost and ramifications are of this type of disaster.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally understand that. Everybody's just kind of still trying to wrap their minds around what the heck just happened. So.
Sure, exactly. Now, Art, do you want to touch base on some of the things that you've experienced and some of the infrastructure issues you're talking about?
Sure. I think it's important for people to keep in mind that they must be patient throughout this process. Right now, as we hopefully can wrap up the phase of identifying where those last people are isolated and ensuring their safety, we're already moving into the recovery phase. And the first part of recovery is doing a complete damage assessment. And in order to obtain FEMA reimbursement, we're looking for 2 different flavors of that. We're looking for individual assistance town. The form should be returned to the town, who then will get them back to me. We have code enforcement officials from around the state in the county today assisting town building inspectors to see what buildings are safe, habitable, and which ones need to be flagged. Once that is complete, we'll make our case with FEMA for the individual assistance. They'll send out a team who will review the damage, and then they will hopefully receive a declaration.
Now, Arthur, just one second. Just 1 second.
Sure.
We should make sure that the general public is also aware that those forms are now available on the county website at ulstercountyny.gov.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And as that process unfolds, if we are declared, then individuals will have an opportunity to make a FEMA claim, either electronically over the internet, via telephone, or a disaster assistance center will be established somewhere in the county. I don't want anyone to think that simply filling out that form is an application to FEMA. That is not the case. That helps us build our case, but that is not the application to FEMA. We'll help people through that process. If and when we become declared, we'll make sure that that is clearly spelled out to everyone, and it's posted in the newspapers, online, and on the radio. Most important
thing to be declared? Is it a certain monetary amount, or
Well, for the public infrastructure, the PA side, it is a certain monetary amount. There has to be about $600,000 worth of damage in Ulster County, which we've exceeded many times over, and there has to be about $25 million worth of damage within the entire state of New York. It's not an either or; it's a both. And I'm pretty confident that we have achieved both of those milestones, unfortunately. So again, there's a process for towns to recoup their funding as well, but individuals have to realize that process, and they have to know that the most important thing to do right now: contact your insurance company, take photographic evidence of the damage that has occurred in your home, and then as you go out and start making repairs, keep your receipts.
And for individuals to fill out these forms with their town at this point, right? But not thinking that this is going to needs an automatic reimbursement from FEMA.
That is correct, and again, I would rather be very upfront about the process.
Yeah.
Very few people are going to get outright grants. The maximum outright grant, if you were totally destitute, is $30,600. Most people will be eligible for low-interest loans. And the interest rate on that will be dependent upon your economic conditions, the home, the damages you suffered, a host of things that go into that formula.
Okay, good to know.
Paul, it's also we should say an extremely important thank you to the DPW workers who are just doing Herculean effort at this point. Think about this, as we are incredibly close to when this event actually took place, and 50% of the roads that were completely impassable are now passable. That really is a testament to the DPW workers at both the county, town, village, hamlet, state, everybody who really come together to try to make sure that people are able to get around and get access to things like grocery stores and hospitals and all the critical places that people need to get.
I was absolutely impressed with it, because there were huge trees down on 28, and I know certain sections of 28 are still closed, and I saw the road buckle there by Mount Tremper.
Well, to give you an idea, there's State Route 47 off of 28, and what I saw there was an absolute cavern that has been created. It is probably 35 to 40 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and the entire piece is gone, as if someone took TNT and blew it up.
Just fortunate nobody was traveling on it at the time, right?
Where Catskill Mountain Railroad is in those areas, tracks have been really twisted like pretzels and thrown into the water. There are sections of 28 where erosion has come in and taken away 2/3 of the roadway, and as you can understand, there's also a significant number of both bridges that are out and bridges that we're concerned may be compromised.
Are we still correct that there's been no deaths or serious injuries?
At this point, we have no reports of either death or serious injury, and again, that is the most important thing. We want to make it through this collectively. We're going to come out the other side as a county. The important part is that we all come out of there healthy. So please, we ask people to be cautious, even to this point, or we're talking about the possibility of live wires, or doing repairs. Because one of the dangers that happens in these situations is after the event, in the cleanup or in the work that's being done to move forward, or people take risks they shouldn't take. There's still serious flooding out there, and we ask people not travel over roads that are covered with water, because there's no telling whether there really is a road there.
And did the sheriffs have to do any more rescues of people driving through flooded areas?
The sheriff has had a multitude of people that they've had to pull out of areas that they've gone with cars. Again, 5 people yesterday before 12 o'clock.
Any sense then?
So at this point, we are asking people to, again, use caution as they move around the county, understand that they use really extreme caution in this process, because there's no telling whether a road has been either compromised by all this flooding, or again, if there's water across it, if there really is a road there at all.
Could
Excellent.
John speak about the dry ice and the distribution?
Sure, John. You want to speak about dry ice and the distribution?
So we have dry ice locations today, and the Lake Katrine at the Grace Community Church at 160 Suriema Court, also in Ellenville at Village Hall, and in Greene County as well, in Cairo, at the Angelo Cana Park. And the dry ice distribution started at 3 o'clock, and we have another round at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow's distribution points have not yet been established. We will make that announcement as soon as we have established locations. So it's both dry ice and bottled water. Dry ice is unfortunately very hard to come by right now because of the unprecedented demand by utilities up and down the eastern seaboard. But we have managed to secure a fairly reliable supplier who's bringing in as much as they can, as long as they can. And unfortunately, with dry ice, it's not something you can stock in warehouse.
John, we should add to that New York State Electric and Gas is going to be doing a distribution of dry ice at 9 p.m. tonight at the Shandaken Firehouse.
Okay. Oh, great, good. That'll provide some relief then.
And you said 5 o'clock that was?
And that's 9 o'clock.
Taken? Oh, 9, I'm sorry. Thank you.
John, have you been running out of dry ice at these distribution locations?
We have, yesterday especially, we had 4 locations, and and within a couple of hours, the dry ice was completely distributed. We distributed 60,000 pounds of dry ice yesterday,